you're like, hey, what's his SAT score? And they're like, oh, we haven't taken it yet.
When I talk to a parent and they tell me that their son or daughter is a really good student and they're a sophomore, and I said, like, what did they get on the test? Oh, we haven't taken it yet. I'm just, it breaks my heart.
Yeah. What's the difference between counselors? Like, you have kids in public, you had kid in private. What's the difference?
Here's the difference. My son was required, well, not my son, me, and my wife were required to go see the college counselor his freshman year of high school. And the college counselor is saying words that me and my wife had no idea what he's talking about. Now, at this point, I'm a lawyer. At this point, I'm a partner in a firm, lawyer. My wife is a pharmacist. We've both done college and both did pretty well. So we thought we knew what we were doing. And at the end of this meeting, we knew we didn't have any idea what we were doing.
Right.
So I don't like that feeling. So I jumped into it head first. Now let's go back to my team. I was just kind of talking to their parents because I assumed that everybody did that meeting with the college counselor, and everybody knew what we now knew. Because I'm talking to them like, man, can you believe all the stuff we got to do? And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like,
yeah.
Didn't y'all meet with y'all college counselor? They was like, of course not. And so then I started telling them all the things that I had learned in that 45-minute first year meeting. They knew none of it. Mm-hmm. So it immediately had me thinking, said, okay, so I'm sitting in practice with this group of kids, and me and my son know more than all of these people combined. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like, man, this is like, it's an advantage. It's a cheat code. Yeah. It's an advantage that kids that get good college counseling have. Well, I should say, get good college counseling early. Because if I would have had that meeting when I thought I was going to have that meeting my son's junior year, it would have been too late to do a lot of the things that we got to do. So what I started doing is like, when I would learn something, I would tell everybody on my team and make sure the parents on my team knew what I knew. So I cannot impress upon people how important college counseling is and how important it is to get it early. My daughter is 5 years younger than my son. Mm-hmm. My daughter started off in a private school. COVID hit, so we decided to put her in public because she was going to be home learning anyway. And we went to meet with the college counselor. In that conversation, it was obvious that I knew more about applying and getting into college than my daughter's college counselor, who had a PhD. I don't have the words to describe to people, and I tell parents this all the time, how important it is to get good college counseling and to get it early, because most people get it far too late.
Part of the program that you're saying, because private school isn't cheap. I've seen the tuition. So it's not cheap, and it's not something everybody can do. If you can get that information. With the program that you're offering, is basically like, you're the college counselor. You're giving the information. That's partly what set your team apart, is because somebody had the information to give those parents and they applied it. Even though you're not at the private school, you can still make private school decisions. I know at the academic camp, you learned a lot more about testing. You could correct me if that's not where you learned it at, but your son had super ACT scores. You wanted to raise it.
There's two big camps. This guy named Harvey, he's a Division III basketball guru. He knows every coach in the country. He has a camp before the big camp. And at Harvey's camp, he had a session with a guy who he specializes in helping kids improve their ACT and SAT score. So my son had taken both tests, so I had the scores with me. So when I went out there, I wanted to be prepared. If we met a coach, I wanted to be able to show him my son's transcript and his test scores, so they can say, okay, this kid can get in my school. This is how much money he's going to get. So I was prepared. I had a folder with all that. So the guy did a session and he was talking about the kids, and he says that he averages improving kids 4 points on the ACT, which is just a huge number.
Right.
And like I was of course immediately skeptical of that number. Well, after he talked to the kids, I went right up to him and I was like, hey, like, introduce myself. Like, I want to know if you can help my son. At the time, my son had a 30 on the ACT. So that put him at the 90th percentile, well, like the 92nd percentile that year on the test. But I knew that if he got a 32 and he got to the 95th, like 95th, 96th percentile, that would put him in a situation with schools where it would almost guarantee full rides. With the 90 percentile, he would be in the running, and because of everything else was pretty strong, I thought he would be good. But at that 95, 96 percentile, with his GPA and with basketball, I thought, okay, this is going to seal the deal. So I showed the guy my son's test scores. He looked at it. I don't want to exaggerate, but it wasn't 30 seconds. It felt more like 10 seconds. And he looked at me and said, oh, yeah, I can help your son. I was like, you can get him a 32? Because the difference between a 30 and a 32 was like 4 questions. I mean, it was like, the margins are tight when you get that high. And he was like, absolutely. He was like, your son's he's a reader, right? I was like, oh yeah, he loves to read. He's like, yeah, I can tell his English scores are perfect. He's like, but in the algebra section, I think there were 6 questions and my son missed like 4 or 5. He was like, when did your son take algebra? And I had to think about it. Well, my son took algebra in the 6th grade. He said, well, that's the problem. He just forgot it. He's like, if I help him with that, he'll be good.
Yeah.
So I said, wait a minute. You're standing here guaranteeing me you're going to get him a 32. He said, oh yeah, it won't be a problem. So, I paid the guy the money. My son took some classes with him over Zoom. It wasn't Zoom, but it was like a precursor to Zoom. He took it over the internet, like with one of the counselors, and he did that in late August, early September. He took the September ACT and got a 32 on the test.
Most people, and you know this in my gym, we do a lot of seminars, and then we get feedback from the parents. And a lot of times the parents are saying, yeah, you're like, hey, what's his SAT score? And they're like, oh, we haven't taken it yet. And you're like, but he just finished his junior year. So when should you be taking that? How does that test work? Explain that to us.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that if parents knew earlier they would do. Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you, and I'm not gonna assume knowledge on anybody. So for the ACT and the SAT, it used to be that if you took the test more than one time, College Board and the universities would average your score. So let's just say you got a 18 one test and you got a 30 the next test. They would average those 2 scores, and whatever that average would be, that would be the average that they consider. I don't think any schools in the country do that anymore. They do now. Everybody does what they call super scoring. And this is the way it works. And it's easier to explain it with the SAT. So let's just say, I forget which sections there are of the SAT, but just for the purpose of this, let's just say there's English, math, and science. Let's just say you take the SAT like in your freshman year and you get a perfect English test and you bomb the math and you bomb the science. And then your sophomore year, you take the math. You take the test again and you get a perfect score on the math and you bomb English and you bomb science. And then your junior year, you take it again and you get a perfect science score, but then you bomb math and you bomb English. What the College Board does and what the university does, they take those 3 scores and take your best score in each subject matter, and they bring those together as your score. So in the scenario I described, you would have a perfect score because one time you got a perfect English, one time you got a perfect math, one time you got a perfect science. So because of that, There is no reason not to take the test early and often. When I talk to a parent and they tell me that their son or daughter is a really good student and they're a sophomore, and I said, like, what did they get on the test? Oh, we haven't taken it yet. I'm just, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, lack of information.
Just like, because you have lost so many opportunities to basically to make the mistake, because there are kids who are really, really great students and not great test takers.
Right.
There's no shame in that. For me, the shame is that you don't learn that until they're a junior in high school, or God forbid, the summer before their senior year, and it's the first time they took the test, and the first time you learn they're not good at the test. If they're not a good test taker, you probably want to figure that out when they in the 8th grade or a freshman, so you can try to do something about it. But so many people wait because they think they got to wait for that one perfect opportunity to take it, because that's it. That's what my score is going to be. And that's just not the way it works anymore.
Yeah, that's big. And what's the difference between, SAT, ACT, and is one more important to the other to colleges?
Most colleges weight them both the same. They have some type of crazy formula where they put the test scores in this formula and they make them both equal out somewhere. But there is a major difference from it. So the SAT has been changed multiple times over the last 23 years, 20, 30 years. The ACT has not been changed as much. The ACT is what, like, the people that do test prep would say, that is a trickable test because you can teach the test more. The SAT teaches how you think, tests how you think. The ACT is more about what you know.
Okay.
So different types of kids will do better on one test as opposed to another. There was a study done that reported that African American boys historically did better on the ACT than SAT. I don't know if that study's been updated, since then, but I know that I only took the ACT and I did pretty well on the ACT. My son took both, and his ACT score ended up better than the SAT, but it's because of that story I told you about him getting that little extra counseling on that. But the tests are different, and if the family can afford it, I suggest them taking both as early as they possibly can. So if there is some type of significant problem, you can start planning for it. Now, a lot of colleges and universities are going what they call test optional and saying you don't have to take the test. I would still advise people to take the test.